Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Spring 2020. I'm Atlas. I'm joined by Chobra here, and surprisingly, we have an APK victory on our hands up against SANDBOX Gaming. It was a great draft, but honestly, how they got there is very surprising.
Yeah, it almost feels like it should have been reversed to some extent in the orders they picked it. But at the end of the day, they were able to make it work. Ixu and APK as a whole, obviously performing very well in every single pick they had, and the Ornn continuing to shine through, as we talked about towards the end of that game and before we went to break. Hopefully we see it either banned or picked immediately, now that both teams seemingly have been reminded that that is a champion that seems to perform well these days.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind, to be perfectly honest, as Hybrid is going to pick up player of the game, 8-0-5 on the Ezreal, basically unchallenged throughout the entirety of the game, and his damage per gold was absolutely obscene. 974 DPM is a big number, guys. It's not too bad at all. And really able to make that gold work for him.
Yeah, he's been around all the important fights, obviously able to pick up and secure the kills that he needed. Sometimes I feel like we see Ezreal's just really providing assistance rather than able to get that burst to get the kills. But I think Hybrid, you see it now that we've had the time, just focus on his movement and his targets as he goes through all these fights. He's never really backing away unless necessary, right? And sometimes that can seem a little risky, but it's just a matter of fact that he's very aware of what he's able to do. And also I think the trust he has in his teammates and in being able to cover for him allows him to constantly move forward until the last moment, where he only dodges just enough if needed at all. And even here, right, Arcane shifting over the wall away from everyone just to secure a kill. Sometimes that looks bad for an Ezreal, but Hybrid able to make it look so good as he picks up the player of the game.
Yeah, super aggressive with his playstyle here. Absolutely love it. Really good stuff, and well-deserved there, as he got 6 out of 9. The rest of the votes, of course, going over to Ixu towards the top side.
That was me.
One of them being Chobra, but it's, of course, shared by, I believe, like Cloud Templar and Dongjun there as well. We're watching we can see the Korean casters on our particular feed, and Cloud Templar was making some very weird references. I'm not entirely sure what that was, but... we do have a substitution, guys. Punch is coming out, and OnFleek is back in here for SANDBOX, and I actually like this. I don't think that Punch is better than OnFleek in any world, to be honest. I think OnFleek is just better. Punch has the experience and did have a decent KDA in their games, but OnFleek wasn't the reason why SANDBOX were losing. I still think that he is the better choice.
Tell me how you really feel, Atlas.
I will, don't you worry.
Yeah, I mean, I think some change was needed no matter what, and I would agree, especially in that game as well. Punch just seemed so helpless, partially I think also because of the picks, right, and how they ended up there, which again is a little weird how that went through, but at the end of the day, the Jarvan was taken away very early, and maybe that was part of the plan of just leaving that Ornn open, but they defaulted to a Sejuani, which as soon as that Sejuani fell behind, not really able to do much. And in fact, Punch was ahead in terms of farm and just taking that time while Jarvan was getting 1 or 2 ganks to try to get ahead in levels, but as soon as that ultimate hit, we didn't see any really breaking moment that the Sejuani was making a difference for the team. So now we're going to see OnFleek come in to game 2.
Yeah, and we'll see whether OnFleek is going to jump onto one of his key picks in either the Olaf, which is hyper aggressive in his hands, or something like his Lee Sin, which has been very strong as well. Of course, Punch known for that champion as well, but OnFleek really has been the one to perform on it more often than not. And so let's see whether OnFleek can have a better performance. As far as like the stats are concerned, I think it's actually sort of skewed a little bit, because SANDBOX have been winning, right? It hasn't been because of Punch, but because they're winning, he's able to get better stats, right? That's just what happens. True. So like sometimes you can look at the numbers, but you got to understand the context that they're in. And SANDBOX was losing a lot of games, and that's why OnFleek's stats don't look so good. We are going to take a slight delay getting into this game. Ixu's in the bathroom, so at the bottom of the screen we're going to need toilet issue, like we would used to put up when the LCK was over at SPO TV. But unfortunately, I don't think we have access to that on this particular broadcast, which is a little bit unfortunate, in my opinion. But that's okay. We have to deal with it. You guys know that it's a toilet issue.
There you go. As long as the people know. As long as the people know what it is.
That's the main thing.
It's just making sure he's as light as a feather going into this game.
maybe he's playing some TFT on his mobile phone device.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe.
I hope that's not the case, because then we've possibly got like a 30-minute break on our hands, which is not what we want until after this series, so that we can maybe have some dinner or something like that.
That would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice to continue on with our days as the day ends here with the show. But of course, right now, just about right in the halfway mark of the matches we have today. Of course, after this match, we'll be going for that KT versus Afrika Freaks, which is a whole nother show that we're all excited for. But going back to On Fleek here, I mean, I think we also need to mention that the Rek'Sai, right, is also something that we could be seeing coming out.
Hey, that's true.
Again as well.
That is certainly one of his key picks, and he's played it the most so far this particular season. Not to exactly the most success. But he was known for it very much earlier on, as we're checking out some highlights from game number 1. Just want to watch Secret die yet again through his Unbreakable, which looked a bit more breakable, actually.
Yeah, in that instance. But afterwards, it seemed to have really remedied its problems and got a couple fixes. Maybe Ornn was able to help forge a little bit of a better shield there for Secret as they're able to push forward. And you know, I don't... This is so weird, because when I used to commentate regularly, I was always the guy that had to always bring kind of the positive side of certain players. Or certain teams. But I'm looking at Lonely, and there was not a single fight in this game where Lonely made any impact. And in fact, a lot of the times, it wasn't necessarily because of the Aatrox, which is a whole different conversation, but I feel like it was just his positioning and his timing. He always joined a little late or tried to go for a flank, which I guess generally, Aatroxes want to do. But again, if you're not at that power level, he seems so helpless on his own, and we see that in every fight where Lonely just wasn't able to put out any damage, let alone crowd control or, zoning people out. And I hope to see a different champion for Lonely going into Game 2.
Yeah, I don't think that... I just think the Aatrox pick that he's played now 4 times in a row it's not doing anything. He could have been singed that game and he would have been more important, right?
You're not wrong.
He could have been almost anything else. There are so many different options, but that Aatrox was just a body that was providing 300 gold for Hybrid whenever he entered a team fight, and that is not what you want to see from your top laner. So maybe they'll have a change of heart here, and it might be to do with the jungle difference. We might have On Fleek spending some more time top lane to allow Lonely to actually participate more in these games. But
yes.
Only time will tell as we move closer and closer to the draft for game number 2. I have a feeling we're going to be there relatively soon, but hopefully Ixu's going to be comfortable after relieving himself before this particular game.
It's very important. It is very important.
Yeah, and we used to have these sort of things on the broadcast. It's a little bit different now that we're doing it a little bit more remotely, things like that. And
that's true.
Hopefully we're going to be in there as soon as possible. And as I say it, here we are into the draft for game number 2. SANDBOX versus APK. SANDBOX now on our blue side wanting to try and pull back from the early deficit that they had. And I still think that, SANDBOX have a chance to definitely take this game. Because I think that the draft disparity in game number 1 was just gigantic, and I think that SANDBOX will have the answers in order to mitigate it for this game.
What is it with all the players being subbed in, having that hello pose?
Hey, that's true.
Right there as well.
He's like, hey guys, I'm back.
Just popping in.
I like that Hybrid's there as well, saying, yeah, I got the player of the game.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, there are those players that they just carry confidence, right, no matter what. And we're actually seeing the Kog'Maw ban coming in against APK. What the heck? This just seems so incidental, right? I get that APK has picked it, but does it merit a ban in the first ban phase? I don't think so.
I guess it was a throwaway ban. I don't really know. The Kalista is locked in though, and this could be top lane, and could be an answer to a potential Ornn. We'll see.
Yeah, if you're going to make a throwaway ban, you might as well try to make it out of something similar to a pocket pick or a cheese pick coming in from any teams. So maybe, but overall the bans and the picks have been pretty weird. The Kalista, the most normal thing we've seen, and then the Jarvan coming in as a response with that misfortune. Again, Ornn being ignored in the first couple picks.
I would suggest APK pick that one next, but SANDBOX can lock away Tarek on here and win the game if they want to. That's basically how that one works. So we got 1 second. Tarek Kalista, very, very strong bottom lane. And on, very strong champion. Anywhere.
Yeah, just this is true. Yeah, not even just in the top lane, just anywhere.
Put him in the game, and he's good. That's just how it works. 15 seconds. They're looking through the champion roster, trying to find that on button.
I don't know what to think if they don't pick it here. I'm also constant. No.
Oh God,
no
really?
Way.
I quit.
No.
It's solo cast. You've got solo cast experience. I know
back.
it was a few years ago, but I'm gone. I'm done. I'm out of here.
Oh my.
That's atrocious. I don't think there's any other way to say it. Why are we doing it for the 5th time in a row?
I just have no. I mean, at this point, there's really no other excuses other than like Lonely only feels comfortable on set and Aatrox, and then set's banned. Like that is.
Yeah.
The only excuse I can think of, because why in the world are you blind picking this Aatrox like against a team where you just got dominated on with that Aatrox? It doesn't make sense, but we're gonna see APK at least not being thrown too off kilter by that, and they're gonna continue with some solid bans in the LeBlanc and the Zoe for that.
And if one doesn't get banned here, I don't know what is going on, because APK should be able to pick it immediately after this, right? Like. If it isn't banned. It is going to be banned. Thank goodness. We've realized that Ornn exists before the second pick phase.
Okay, so, I mean, now there's a little bit of hope for Lonely to be able to showcase a better game. It's still, to me, it just still feels so reckless, right? Because APK still could have answered with that Ornn earlier if they wanted. They ended up prioritizing that Azir, and so that worked out in favor for SANDBOX.
That is the Secret Alistar. Secret pretty good on this particular champion. He's been playing for a very long time, and Alistar was one of his picks that he was able to utilize to pretty decent effect when he was back on Kongdu Monster in the past. Wasn't a team that did a lot of winning, however. He was certainly able to have his isolated moments as OnFleek thinking about being a troll this game.
There you go. And Alistar, I believe it's this patch, the 10.5 patch, right, where Alistar got a bit of a buff in terms of his passive stacking immediately after he's able to get that roar. So, I mean, not huge. It doesn't change the entire game, right? But it's just something, especially for someone who is comfortable on a champion, right? It's just good news that you're able to be a little bit more useful in a variety of situations.
Yeah, and also gets a little bit of extra health as well on this particular patch. So. Nice. Not too bad at all. As Echo is locked in, that is going to be the assassin choice into the Azir. The Varus was, of course, banned away, which is often the counter pick of choice into the Birdman. But this time around, Dove is going to be taking the Echo, and with the amount of knowledge that he has of Azir, you can understand that he would feel pretty confident with his chosen counter pick option. As there's the Zilean. The classic Ixu craziness has been locked away, but we saw BDD Zilean be so damn good in Genji's match yesterday. And Ixu does like to do some really weird stuff, like picking up sort of like playing Famine Zilean top lane, but I don't think he's going to be doing it this time around. He's just going to try and clear out minion waves as quickly as he can and make sure that Lonely doesn't really get to play the laning phase of the video game.
Yeah, I think it's really just to shut that out, and then obviously once you get into the mid-game and team fights, I mean, Zilean's utility has never been doubted and what he can offer for the rest of the team. Looking at it overall, I think SANDBOX have certain answers, but just given how this match has played out so far and also what they seem to be capable of, I want to give the edge to APK once again. I mean, I think the only curveball I'm a little bit worried about is potentially, like you mentioned, Dove's Echo of really running amok, starting with that laning phase.
Yeah, and of course this roster that SANDBOX have put together is extraordinarily low range, and I actually really love the Zilean pick purely for that reason, right? Because the bombs, especially when you can get the stuns pretty consistently, and by using Jarvan as a taxi, much like Genji were able to do, you can really provide a whole lot of CC for Misfortune just to stand in the back and press R, right? And then Cover can utilize the Azir to push people away. Like, there are a lot of answers for this short range. I mean, Alistar even is very, very good at that. So I feel like what APK have done is crafted a composition that can answer exactly what SANDBOX have done, but SANDBOX's comp is just better and more well-rounded than what they had in Game 1. So if they can pilot it well, I think there is still a big chance that they can win this game.
Yeah, SANDBOX definitely have a couple more answers than they did in Game 1. I mean, APK, I think, also just have the choice, though, of whether they want to be the aggressors or not in a fight, right? They can either wait for the initiation coming in from the Trundle and the Aatrox, or potentially even, of course, Gorilla being thrown in by the Kalista, or they can go in themselves as they actually catch Gorilla out a little bit.
Yeah, he's going to get knocked up with that Pulverize as Root comes on over, but that is still Gorilla down to half health, and he will have to go back to base. But Root has taken the first CS of the game, so already SANDBOX with a huge advantage.
Ah, there you go. So refreshing. Outside of what we've discussed overall in the composition, of course, we talked about the top lane, Ixu hopefully able to shut down Lonely's Aatrox, but also on the side of Lonely, I mean, listen, if you're picking a champion this many times, regardless of result, you have to have something to show. Otherwise, things are looking very poor for both you and the team, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and it might be a decision by SANDBOX to say that, like, we want to run this composition, and honestly, this one is one where the Aatrox should be able to perform better. However, I just don't know. I feel like Ixu is going to be able to get the edge here, but his Zilean wasn't great the last time we saw it. He picked it in a very similar position. I think it was up against Set last time around, but Aatrox, a similar beast. As far as just that melee aggression style of champion, as Gorilla looking for the dazzle, misses it there onto Hybrid and will go once again down to 50% health as Root takes a bit of damage there but answers back with a decent rend. But a good sidestep from Hybrid keeps him in this lane.
Yeah, I think Hybrid's just on point today overall, right? I think
he's coming into his own.
Yeah, his movement's been very, very good, and while Misfortune may not have a dash, obviously she's very, very speedy. So able to take advantage of that as well. And you were mentioning the matchup in top lane and Ixu's performance last time. That's the one I'm a little worried about. If Lonely's picking Aatrox this much, surely he must have a lot of knowledge on the champion. And he may be able to really kind of walk around the little gimmicks that Zilean's able to throw against him and then get some early pressure and kills potentially even in that lane.
And were those stats like solo queue stats? Like, I don't think they've played Kalista Tarek that many times so far on this patch. It has to be.
Yeah, I think with the number of... It didn't specify if it was solo queue, but it looks like, given the number...
that was a little bit interesting. If G-Sun, if you're listening, if you could let us know the context of that particular stat, that would be fantastic. If you're not listening, if maybe you're getting dinner, that's totally fine as well. We'll just stay in the dark when it comes to that one. As SANDBOX down towards the bottom side, just trying to hold on against Hybrid and Secret. Good to see the Alistar back. I just like the champion. I think he's fun. I think that he can provide a lot in a team fight as well. And if you want to have that extra CC and you don't want to pick Nautilus, then it certainly works out. As Secret is just going to look to try and get towards the later stage of the game and then utilize that full combo in order to keep himself into relevance, as Flawless is down there towards the bottom side and is just going to go for a back, not going to reveal himself. As there's the Pulverize, headbutt back there onto Gorilla though as he uses the exhaust on Hybrid immediately. Great dazzle. He is going to get a lot of CC mitigation, but there's the flash. That was Flawless missing and then flashing back to try and get in position, but unable to make it work, as now Ixu in trouble, but underneath this turret is going to be okay.
Oh my gosh, APK played that like as well as they could, really, with the timings. They baited the Gorilla in, they got all the right abilities, and like you said, Flawless even trying to position, wait for that flash. He misses, uses the flash of his own to get the knockup, but like you said, the damage just wasn't there. I mean, Tarek is deceivingly tanky.
And also has that heal, and when he has the Bastion and in position to auto-attack there as well, you get that cooldown back way faster than you'd otherwise expect. So yeah, the durability certainly up there, and SANDBOX afterwards will have about a 300 gold lead despite no kills actually going down. Root does have a slight advantage there. As we have a look at this replay one more time, I do have confirmation from G-Sun about that stat, but I'll bring it to you after we check out Gorilla surviving for a very long time, and this double dazzle was just fantastic.
Yeah, when you see the flash, I mean, again, a good decision from Flawless, but the damage just not available for that side. That is one of the things that, I mean, if you had to pick out something, right, Alistar can't offer, despite all the crowd control, is that much extra damage. Of course, a good gank against Ixu that we saw the very end of didn't result in a kill, but that is the danger. Now that the flash is down, I think that speed alone is not going to keep Ixu alive when it comes to an Atron.
No, you're exactly right. And so Ixu now going to be in a bit of danger, and Lonely keeps his flash up. So now Ixu underneath his turret, that will mean that he's going to be a little bit more comfortable. You have to remember that Zilean adds a whole lot more outside of just the ability to be annoying and have those double bombs. He can offer the extra experience to someone like Flawless if they're coming up topside, or allow the rest of his carries to just be a little bit stronger levels-wise. So added utility there as APK pull back ahead as far as the farming numbers are concerned. And you can see Cover doing a great job, actually, on his airy Azir. Azir can build basically any keystone and make it work effectively. I love it, as Emperor's Divide just to clear out a mini wave. Thereby Cover.
Yeah, I would say that's
a bit weird.
Good decision. I mean, it was a little... Oh, okay. So I like that from both sides. Obviously, Azir using that, Emperor's Divide seeing Dove going away. Oh, a little fight for the scuttle.
It is going to be Flawless locking that one down, but now he has to try and escape. Flags, drags, gets to the blast cone and is able to use that to create even more distance. So I believe it was Flawless that locked down the Rift Scuttler, but now it should be the Infernal Drake going over to SANDBOX without too much of an answer here from APK.
Yeah, not going to really look like a great decision, but at the end of the day, of course, it is just the first Drake. It is an Infernal, of course, but nothing too concerning. It's not, setting anyone entirely behind. But Flawless maybe got a little bit greedy on that Scuttle. In that mid lane, as we were talking about it before, I mean, I think Cover made the decision. I know that Dove's backing. He's not going to stick around. We have support from the other side of the map, so I'm just going to push it in with the ultimate, and then Dove responding with his own ultimate as well, kind of negating both sides of that effect.
Yeah, trying to buy as much reset time as possible. The great thing about it was that SANDBOX identified that, understood that the Azir was back, didn't have teleport, and was able to secure the Drake uncontested. So good use of information there from SANDBOX, shows that their heads are still in the game despite losing out in game number 1. But APK is still absolutely fine right now, and we'll see how their composition is going to go as it scales up into the later stages of the game.
Now they steal away the blue, which is going to hurt the side of APK a little bit. Of course, Cover on that Azir could utilize that very well on his side, but Dove's going to secure that one, and hopefully, it looks like we're seeing the ping from OnFleet for their own blue buff as well. So that continues to give Dove something to work with, right? Continue to just dive in for trades if he really feels the need to, and then also may be able to roam after a couple of trades as well.
Well, we'll see whether he can keep himself alive here, because of course doesn't have the ultimate available to him, I don't believe, unless that's come back off cooldown already. Doesn't have a lot of CDR in the build just yet, but you can see Cover is actually controlling this lane pretty effectively despite being down by a little bit of CS. And you can see right there that the Chrono Break is actually still available once again. And I believe his little shadow only appears after Chrono Break is actually up. So
yeah, and he actually
he
just
uses it to get back to lane and proves it.
There you go. Yeah, the shadow's no longer there. Ixu gets got out.
Yeah, he does have his ultimate available, so the Chrono Shift is going to be up. That's going to be confusing, but he doesn't actually have to use it there, as it's a great knock-up. Gorilla, he's just spending so much time in bouncy castles, man. He goes to, like, 7-year-olds' birthdays so many times in this series. Oh, not what you want to see if you're a Gorilla fan.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gorilla is just trying to do what he can to help the rest of the team around the map, but APK is just always there a step ahead as a group rather than just one member. And Ixu actually going to be the one teleporting bottom lane just to make sure they protected with that focus they had on the top, with the Herald now going down, hopefully soon, for Flawless and APK, and the duo here, they're going to be able to push through and get a bunch of these plays.
Yep, and Lonely's not going to be able to do anything here. There's dive potential because Secret does have his ultimate up, and Flawless is going to plonk down Shelly here also, as Lonely looking to try and clear out the wave, but he uses all of his Qs without being able to hit the minion wave, and so Shelly will be able to get this charge. Almost able to stop that one, but the plates do go down in the end. It's now Root looking to try and jump onto Ixu here, but he can just speed himself up. He's absolutely fine, and the bullet time not going to hit the backline minions, which is a little bit frustrating for Hybrid, that he's just going to go back to base and try and get as strong as possible as this game goes on. APK do still have a little bit of a lead, but as the mid-game crests, it is going to be SANDBOX with a lot of
미드
control.
3파치 주도권 잡고.
Looking at Ixu's point of view. He just hears his teammates saying that they're all coming, so he just calms down. And they call out the no flash. If you couldn't tell, Tarek didn't have flash with the 20 times that it was mentioned. But Tarek does go down because he didn't have flash.
Well, he's got flash now, so we're not going to hear that next time. As yes, absolutely rap god is what Twitch chat is saying, and I agree entirely. Secret trying to sweep out some vision here as a control ward that he's able to put down in that little pixel brush, and we'll spot the rest of SANDBOX moving on down here before they put their control ward in position. Hybrid clears the minion wave, but will now have some rotational freedom to move towards his jungler and support. But have spotted on Fleek. This could be dangerous, but it is 3 versus 3 at the moment. Teleport up for both Dove and Lonely, but down for Ixu, which is why APK do decide to pull away.
Yeah, I mean, Cover had also lost out on the push a little bit at a reset. Now the entire mid lane is reset again, so Cover joins ahead of time. Looks like they're actually just setting up for an entire dive, but they're going to get spotted right away. Gorilla nowhere to go there.
Well, there's the Cosmic Radiance. Root very, very low as he goes invincible, but they pull away. You can see Secret, a lot of Ren stacks in him there, but there's the double teleports that we were talking about, and double flashes are going to be used to get APK out. And Lonely just chasing towards Flawless. He's going to break the chains just before that knock-up does come in, as the Cloud Drake is going to be spawning. Oh, really good damage there. As there's the third Q to come down. Great knock-up, though, as Flawless gets himself out with another well-placed Blast Cone, and Lonely unable to secure those kills. They should be able to secure position around this dragon.
Yeah, they'll still be able to get the Drake. I mean, the enemies have been taken down quite low. Ixu looking for a cheeky play, but this might not go down so well. Yep, just decides to speed on out of it.
Yeah, tick-tock, tick-tock. He's going to be absolutely fine. As Dove clearing out the mid lane, but the Mountain Drake is going to be the next spawn, so no Oceans again. And we'll see whether SANDBOX are going to be able to lock down a Dragon Soul this time, because this is the same position as game number 1, but comps are very, very different, as APK do not have the same level of mid-game power as they had in game 1. So a Mountain Soul would be great for APK, absolutely, especially with the fact that Ixu can bring people back to life, and if he brings them back to life with more resistances, then of course you're going to get even higher value. However, it is still going to be a tall order to get all 4 of them in a row and regain all sorts of control of this map. So Ixu now just scoping out this top lane and should be able to relieve it of its 2 remaining turret plates.
Yep, get that last hit. Almost risks his life for it, but is able to get out. Now, APK in that bottom lane, I mean, I think it was just a little too greedy. I think they had too much faith in the capability to dive with that Alistar, but of course Tarek is one of the best champions to combat a dive against. And also, I think the communication from SANDBOX really showed there, right? As soon as the enemies were shown on the ward, the teleport starts immediately. So it's not like APK can go in for the kill and then try to flash out. They just shut down any possibility. And now APK, now what other answers do they have in any of these lanes, quite frankly, to get a kill?
Well, Dove does have his Chrono Break back available yet again. He's been using it basically off cooldown to get back to lane. Using his health bar as a resource is something that you can certainly do with Echo that works very, very well. As Ixu clears out these minions and is now looking for Lonely. Gets his Super Soaker out as the Infernal Chains in the queue are going to miss. You can see Ixu, as this game goes on, is going to have some control over the Aatrox. You can just be really frustrating. I feel like Ixu is just really good at being frustrating.
I mean, sometimes that's the role you play.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just there to really throw someone on tilt on the enemy team. That's just enough to get you the win. And obviously in game 1, Ixu just played really well overall. And this time, I think you're right. I think the most he can offer is that as we see that pillar coming out from the jungle.
Yeah, it's not actually going to be able to do anything just yet. 500 gold is the lead here for APK, but it's pretty inconsequential as we move towards a bit of a power spike for SANDBOX just in general. Blade of the Ruined King going to be a very good point here for Root, as Gorilla is beside him, just keeping things absolutely even towards the bottom side of the map, despite the added attention that they've had down here. Both teams sort of agreeing to a bit of a back situation as Cover throws down his ultimate in the mid lane, I think, just to get Dove off him. It feels like ultimate's just being thrown out willy-nilly here for both of these mid laners.
Yeah, I think both of them accepting that the kill potential isn't entirely there right now. Probably, if anything, a little bit more in favor of Dove, especially if there was a gank. And so just using their ultimates to make sure they retain whatever advantage or stay even in lane. Obviously, that will change soon enough, but so far it's been a pretty slow and steady game.
Well, Flawless, the pillar is going to come in, but he utilizes the Mountain Rift quite nicely there to provide extra distance, cover. A lot of damage onto Dove here, who couldn't quite close the gap as the Time Winder goes a little bit wide. But now we're looking at APK to try and start this fight. 4 members of SANDBOX being corralled together as Secret. You know he's hungry for that headbutt pole. As Root stacking up the Ren stacks. Now Flawless makes his way down here. Turret is going to fall as APK get themselves into relative position. But we're not going to be able to find the parallel convergence, and Secret has to ult very, very early in this fight on fleek. Down to about half health as in goes Flawless now. As the Cosmic Radiance only arms onto 3 members. Flawless is going to be the first one to go down. But now that ult has dissipated. Cover can't get in there, though, to do anything in the ultimate. Is still not back off cooldown. This is a disaster for APK as Hybrid was searching for Dove, but will not find him. And now Cover has the ult back, but it is way too late.
APK just couldn't make up their mind soon enough, and I think a big part of that was the fact that Azir didn't have his ultimate, so Cover wasn't able to offer anything, and Dove, got poked down a little bit in the lane and moving into that team fight, but Dove was more than happy to keep Cover at bay because they knew the rest of their team could do well. They're able to take down that outer turret and continue to do damage on the inner. We'll take a look right here again. Dove actually just completely zones out Cover. Cover has to dash over that rock structure, and that starts to fight. Secret can't get the multi-man pulvers he's looking for, just goes in for one. Flawless goes in, but Gorilla immediately responds with his ultimate, and Tarek actually jumps out forward towards that backline through the Kalista ult. Really good communication between Rout and Gorilla, able to cut off the backline. Lonely, of course, playing very well, patiently waiting for that Zillion ult to die off on the Jarvan as well. So SANDBOX just was really well put together in that team fight.
Yep, really clean stuff as APK now over onto this Mountain Drake. Lonely comes on in, trying to lock down Flawless, but they aren't going to be able to steal away the Drake. There's the bullet time. Gigantic Empress Divide onto 4 members as well as Gorilla is so incredibly low. On fleek is going to melt down. Gorilla, the second one to go as Cover, has so much extra damage. The Misfortune is dead, and SANDBOX do have a lot of power here towards the top side as Flawless does find a decent knock-up, but he's going to deliver his life over to Lonely. And now you've got an Azir just sitting underneath this turret with not a lot to do. Time Winder is going to land as Dove does have his ultimate available. And now looking for the redive once again.
So Cover, oh my goodness, Cover had, on his own a good ultimate, but I believe it actually shoved out all 3 or 4 members out of the Misfortune bullet time for like the last second and a half. We'll see it here again. APK able to secure that Drake, like you said, which is good news. But as everyone groups in, the bullet time so good, and then the Azir first pushes them in, but actually just pushes them way far outside of the bullet time. And Hybrid, I think, was just trying to make sure he got maximum damage, so stays in that channel a little too long, and he gets shut down. So the maximum damage was actually missed because of the combo, as it was, theoretically it was intended to be used that way. But unfortunately, just the range and positioning from Cover actually pushes them out.
A bit of a yikes, one could say.
Yeah.
Not exactly what you want to be seeing. However, you can see how it can work if they coordinate effectively. If you get that knock-up and you get the R button by the Misfortune pressed in the right direction, that's a lot of extra damage. You can see total damage dealt. That would have been a much higher number there for the Misfortune if things had have gone better. But still, able to out-damage his opposite number here in Root. So we'll see whether the Misfortune can continue to perform better and better as this game goes on. Still looking for the Infinity Edge as item number 2, but that is going to be a big 2-item power spike to try and contend with Root's Runan's Hurricane, which is coming in very, very soon. Dove topside, though, he does have some split push threat on this Echo because he can be so slippery. But we'll see how the game continues to eventuate as 3,000 gold is the lead for SANDBOX, and it looks like they're not planning on giving up the trigger just yet.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. I mean, their movement is much more confident around the map as well compared to that first game, now that they have that lead. And like you mentioned, I think, again, it helps that they have a much more reliable split pusher in Dove's Echo, just given the scoreline of 4-0-1. Of course, has his Proto Belt and the Lich Bane as well, so not afraid of really any 1v1. And then this also allows Lonely to kind of be that specialized threat, whether it's in a split push or getting to teamfights a little bit earlier, as you can see that Dove has that teleport, so they can kind of trade off, which I think is working out for SANDBOX quite well.
Yeah, very much is. See, whether APK can utilize their more, I guess, scaling-focused composition. It's a scaling-focused, sort of finesse-based teamfight comp, right? So they still do need to execute correctly, and we saw that things can definitely go awry if that execution isn't at the right level. But doesn't mean that the rest of the fights are going to go the same way. It's a 5,000 gold lead, but we have to remember that APK were able to steal away that Mountain Drake, and that means that SANDBOX don't have Drake Point right now with their mid-game composition that they would have otherwise very much enjoyed. So still a chance here for APK, but I don't know whether anyone's going to be holding their breath this time around, as SANDBOX looks like they've sorted themselves out. And doing a bit of a jungler check, feels like OnFleek is feeling pretty comfy on his Trundle this game as well, contributing a lot to these team fights and getting things under control. Some of these pillars have been pretty pivotal as well in these team fights, so good to see OnFleek back and in decent form as well.
Yeah, whenever I hear the player OnFleek, it just took me forever to understand what OnFleek meant when the term first came around.
Yeah, me too. I still barely know what it means, to be honest.
I don't know if I don't know if I
thing.
fully comprehend it. It is a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really comprehend it. I just know it's like supposed to be a compliment. And then I was very surprised to find a Korean player had named himself OnFleek, and I was like, do they know? Like, is it because they know what that means, or they're just like taking it off of the internet? Like,
you have to remember that they're younger than us, Chobo. You know,
this
like we just don't really understand all of these hip things that the kids are doing these days. The
TikToks and the whatnots.
Yeah.
But you know, going back to the game, I think with the combo that you were mentioning that APK has. You know I started the game by saying, you know, just APK seems to look good today, and maybe they'll be able to pull this off. I think SANDBOX are very confident in the answers they have, which is something you mentioned after the draft. And I think SANDBOX really doesn't have to be afraid of anything. Like, even if the full combo comes in, if Gorilla's reading the fight right, I mean, he can negate the entire thing, right? So that alone is a counter.
They have the anti-wombo, which is Tarek. He just doesn't let you have fun. That's just how that one sort of works. So Ixu's able to clear out waves pretty well, but he's still getting out-farmed by a massive margin. This Mountain Drake is going to be taken by SANDBOX without any response, so the Earth, Wind, and Fire, as you can see up towards the top of your screen, is going to secure that soul point for SANDBOX, and in another 5 minutes' time, it's going to be a very difficult decision that APK do have to make, which is whether or not they feel like they're safe enough to fight.
Yeah, I mean, all that effort and time put in to chase an Echo, who eventually gets away without a single scratch, and then we're just giving Baron a little bit of a spotlight there as Baron comes out. But outside of that, I mean, they just gave up that Drake for free. I'm not really sure what APK... Like, even if they had gotten that kill, right, against Dove, you get the shutdown gold, which there's 600 available, so that is quite a bit. But what do you achieve from there? Maybe if they had gotten the kill, they wanted to go for Baron, which I would think was a little risky, given what SANDBOX is able to do coming in towards that pit. And so it appears that they're at a loss for how they're supposed to play the rest of this out. A big part of that obviously being that their mid lane has been completely shoved in thanks to that early hero.
Yeah, exactly, and so it's not very safe here for APK to actually farm this lane, and this is the one that's the most pivotal in the K-Ram. You know, if you've lost your turrets in an A-Ram game, things are going to be feeling pretty bad, as Flawless is going to find the rest of SANDBOX, but not going to be engaged on just yet. APK, they still do have teamfight power, right? They still do have tools at their disposal, but they haven't been able to utilize them, and they certainly have to try and play around what Gorilla's capable of mitigating, which is basically everything that they're trying to do. There's a lot of wave clear available here at the same time as he has the adorable Louis Vuitton skin.
Oh yeah. On top of all of that, just the split push coming in from Lonely and Dove, right? They're rarely grouped in 5, and Ixu.
Yep, gonna get taken down to his Chrono Shift. Apparently Chrono Break better than Chrono Shift. That's what I've learned today. And I think it's actually the true damage skin. It's not the, I think it's not the Louis Vuitton one, but still cool. Still cool.
Yeah, definitely some good skin sets that have come out in the recent year or so.
Absolutely.
I haven't been able to buy most of them since now my account's split in terms of how I've invested my finances, still both to the Korean account and the NA account. So neither of them really have any of the recent skins, but
mine's the same because like mine's back in Australia.
There you go.
So like I log in on that account sometimes and I'm like, damn, I used to own a lot of skins, but now I've got like none of them anymore. It's actually a little bit sad.
One of the worst feelings was, so obviously I used to have a lot of skins in NA, like way back in the day, Season 2 and 3. And then when we came to Korea, initially we had been given sanctioned accounts just to make sure that we're able to play and continue being updated on the patch and stuff back in the day until we were able to create our own. And then, so I had all these skins on the Korean server, and then I went back to NA and I logged in and I was like, I am so behind in champions and skins, I don't even know what to buy anymore.
Well, I've been the same. I've got my Riot account here in Korea, but it's not the same as having your own one.
Yeah.
And I remember I got offered to have like my account sort of Riotized when I first started at Riot back in 2014 over in OCE, but I didn't want to because I'd invested so much that I felt so bad if I was to make it irrelevant.
There you go.
So I was just like, can I have a Smurf account instead? I just didn't want to do it. So yeah, I had sort of like an extra account for a little while there as well. So that was handy. But like now it's just sad when I log back in when I'm back in Australia for whatever reason. Anyway,
and
getting back to the game, we've got like still the same 5,000 gold lead approximately here for SANDBOX, who are just waiting until this Mountain Drake does become available. And you can see with Flawless floating around topside, he's going to want to head towards this Drake relatively soon. They need to fight for vision around this area because they have to put up at least some sort of defense against this Mountain Soul.
If you go back now, you're definitely not getting vision for sure. And I don't know if you're even able to fight. They haven't had any vision or solid vision around that Drake for quite some time.
Oh god, Cover in a lot of trouble, but is able to get the Emperor's Divide to safety. Has a relatively decent health bar there, but it's just from Relinomicon, so not going to offer any resistances or anything like that, just has that raw health. As Ixu throws out the spooky ghosts, but how spooky are they actually? Is the question.
Not quite. I think they're rather glad to just greet them early and then also bid them farewell. They will be able to get the Scuttle, so finally, something to work with the Lonely.
Has the World Ender activated, is now on fleek, looking for Secret. Headbutt Pulve there onto Lonely to try and keep him out of the fight as Ixu. He has to try and control this one. The bombs are down, but Dove is just still split pushing on the top side of the map. As APK, they move over to the Drake. And a teleport now to come in from the Echo. Can Flawless lock down this Drake? He can, but now can they win the ensuing fight is the question. Flawless finds his ultimate button this time around, flashes to get himself out to safety, but it's going to be the ult out of the Trundle that locks that one down. Single man ultimate there from Gorilla as he lands onto Secret as the Cosmic Radiance is going to arm, but Cover gets himself to relative safety. Ixu running very, very quickly, and now they might be in the right position for APK to strike, but no, they just back away. They don't let APK find that team fight that they're looking for so desperately. Maybe the re-engages now. Ixu just gets popped. Hybrid is huge though. Two-man ultimate right into the backside of the headbutt Pulve is gigantic. Hybrid grabs the double kill now, but now in melee range of Dove. Able to grab one of those kills, but it's Root that comes out standing tall. He grabs the triple kill himself, but that's on top of the ace that they were able to get themselves.
Oh man, I mean APK looks like they might have had a moment to turn things around, but I think the answer we got with SANDBOX was just too far ahead. Now the good news is they were able to secure that Drake, but Flawless has to use his Cataclysm early. APK is not in a position to do a combo. Cover was also a way, I mean first of all the ult wasn't up yet, but also a way just kind of zone Lonely out, gets chased down by Dove. If you see towards the jungle here, Gorilla did use his ultimate here to survive, but they get a 3-man stun coming in from Ixu. So that's what allowed for this long reset in favor of APK. Now Cover has his ultimate, so he's confidently, I'm sure, calling in comms that he has Emperor's Divide, chases in, but watch as he goes in, he's actually stunned immediately, so he's not able to get the Emperor's Divide onto the Callista, which they still got a double kill for Hybrid, but that means Rout was just able to continue fighting everyone else afterwards with the help of OnFleek.
And also, Ixu was stunned and then killed before he could even press his ultimate button. So the sort of main teamfight tool as far as defense is concerned was mitigated immediately. But the good news story for APK is the fact that they were able to secure the Drake. So once again, SANDBOX have to wait before they pick up the Mountain Soul. I think the next fight should be around this Baron buff, though, because they have so much secure with the Rend and the Smite availability of OnFleek. So SANDBOX now going to turn their attention northward, try and lock this one down. Looks like Cover has found the troll, though, as the headbutt pole looking to come in, but it's a great stopwatch to deny that for now. OnFleek does eventually go down as the Cosmic Radiance might be a little bit too late. Ixu controlling this fight as the Fate Skull has to be used defensively, and now APK might find an opportunity for a Baron.
I mean, that was very good commitment from APK. I think that's what they needed. Obviously, it was the jungler as well, which helps. And actually, they're going to jump forward.
Yeah, another headbutt hold lands onto Lonely here. He's taking way too much damage and is just going to die. Hybrid picks up yet another kill, and now with 2 dead, it could definitely be time for Baron.
Yeah, I think APK made the right call. It still could have been a little bit risky had SANDBOX played it very perfectly, obviously with the combination of champions they have available as well, whether it's the Callista being able to jump in and out, obviously the Echo for sure. So they secure one more kill. They want to go back for the Baron. OnFleek tries to go for the Scuttle, which seemed a little greedy, and Cover just does not hesitate on that ultimate.
Yep, just locks him down. It was a decent stopwatch, and I thought that maybe with the help of Gorilla he might be able to survive, but a little bit too late was the support of SANDBOX, and Root going to take him out with the ultimate there. But now with those 2 key abilities on cooldown, it was all too easy for APK to just grab another pick and not have any defensive statistics available for the SANDBOX members. So really nicely done on APK, back in the driver's seat. A minute and a half until that Mountain Drake is going to be available, and the Baron is going to last until then as well.
Yeah, so that works out perfectly in timing for them. Of course, Secret used that Tag Splash to get Lonely as well, so very well utilized. OnFleek going in, disrupting the enemy team.
Yeah, over to the side here, but he's taking free damage from Cover at the beginning of this fight. Parallel Convergence only going to land on the Secret, and he's going to be absolutely fine. Doesn't even have to use his ult to get himself out of the way. The Exhaust available here for Secret, but Hybrid's Flash still on cooldown, as is Cover's. These are going to be very, very important in the coming team fight. You can see Root still has his flash button available, as does Dove. So APK, despite the Baron, still have to be a little bit wary of what SANDBOX can do, but it feels like they're out of the woods, to be honest. Their composition coming into its own as we move past the 30-minute mark. And APK getting more and more of this standing gold on the map.
They also shred tower so well with that Misfortune and the Azir, so they're taking advantage of Baron as best as he can. Obviously, they still need to work on the outer turret first and mid. There's still the one bottom lane available as well. They are... Oh, it's just right outside of range.
That is pretty unfortunate. There's 7 seconds until this Mountain Drake. This could be the next fight for SANDBOX. With that extra information that APK don't think they have, Flawless is going to dive in. Good wall set up by those bombs. And APK are going to be able to back themselves out. Flawless, he can flag drag to get himself towards this Mountain Drake, but look at how quickly it's going down. Flawless gets into the pit, will be able to secure the Drake, and now bullet time over 3 members. Gorilla does get the Cosmic Radiance off cooldown. As Flawless, he's got the Chrono Shift, but isn't going to die. This is actually huge because he gets all of his health back if that happens. Ixu has to flash to get himself out as now Dove dives on top of the Dove himself. And the Alistair is going to fall down as well, but importantly, APK do get back to base and they secure the Drake.
Yeah, so they didn't lose too much, right? They lost two deaths, which obviously would have been nicer if they didn't, but they don't lose any huge objectives afterwards. I mean, there are 40 seconds still on cover, so maybe SANDBOX can put a lot more pressure down here in that mid lane, especially with that Baron buff now about to run out, so the minions won't have that power. SANDBOX should... Ooh.
Hybrid caught out of position here as the Infernal Chains will pull him back, but he just completed his GA, and now Flawless is going to make his way in. An easy pop onto the Echo, and now Lonely trying to escape. Root is still a big deal, remember. 5-0 and 6 on this Callista, but the Rend is going to slow everyone down, and the hot pursuit is going to be over. Hybrid's strutting. He's going real fast as Ixu's able to speed him up, and there's the Make It Rain. He's looking for Root. Try and lock down this kill. He's so damn fast. What is this?
Gosh.
Just insane amounts of damage. And it wasn't actually the GA that had popped. It was Ixu's ultimate that came up. So the GA is still available as Hybrid can survive twice in this fight.
That was actually, yeah, that's a clutch ultimate coming in from Ixu, because I'd seen the GA too, so I believed it was the GA, but you're right. Now Hybrid can continue pushing very confidently. Now Ixu does need to get some mana though, so they're going to back off, not get too greedy as we saw SANDBOX do towards that mid lane inhibitor turret.
And it looks like APK are going to do it again. They're just going to keep stacking these Drakes over and over again. As we have a look at this fight one more time, Flawless getting into the Drake pit at exactly the right moment to secure it, and the bullet time worked this time despite Cosmic Radiance being pretty strong.
Yeah, and now the unfortunate part, like you mentioned, Flawless not able to dive with that Zillion ultimate on him, and also the cover's ultimate, the Emperor's Divide, it didn't really work out as much as he wanted to. It made Dove shy away for a second, but he was able to dive right back into the fight. Now that fight results in this kind of greediness coming in from SANDBOX, and there it is. Oh, we see it pop in as soon as Misfortune gets caught outside of that pillar. Is able to come back up with the GA still alive. My favorite part was Flawless ulting onto Route and then realizing he did not want to be caught inside that Cataclysm with the Callista, and able to back out.
Yeah, so this game feels like it has turned. APK still behind in gold, but this Misfortune, with the amount of lives that she has in these fights, is feeling basically immortal. 8-3-2, 6 items complete on this hyper carry. It's going to be very, very scary for SANDBOX, despite the fact that Root is still so big, right? This Callista is gigantic, but if your front line is going to die, then still the Callista has to run away.
Yeah, just given the, I think, crowd control that APK's frontline has. Uh-oh, Hybrid!
Lonely, trying to get in there, but actually, who's stuck in where with who is Secret. Does have the ultimate. Bullet time is going to lance all the way over SANDBOX as the Cosmic Radiance arms onto 3 members, but there's the ult. Out from cover, he's going to go down. Chrono Shift available, though, and he's going to come back up with full health. Gigantic damage with the Conquering Sands as Hybrid is boosting it after SANDBOX. That was just so fast. He's just got a jetpack or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. But now APK, they can grab anything they would like. Baron up in 2 seconds, and SANDBOX are scattered to the wind.
Yeah, APK definitely making that movement towards Baron, and SANDBOX looking like they're just going to take the safe route home. No, Dove going to look for at least some scouting, maybe a sneaky play. I would believe that it's a little... Oh, getting rid of that Blast Cone as well. I love that Flawless is just so aware of the resources on the map. It seems like he's always utilizing those Blast Cones or getting rid of them appropriately as APK picks up the second Baron in the game.
Yep, going to grab Baron number 2, and now we're going to check out this team fight once again. This was Lonely thinking how to flank, and then Hybrid having way too many items, to be honest.
And that damage coming in from the bullet time, of course, with Terra's ultimate coming down a little late. Gorilla is able to survive thanks to that. But we also see in the back, Cover puts up the Sun Turret and then the Emperor's Divide. So we see 2 members of SANDBOX, Conflict and Dove, just can't approach the fight at all, which was enough for Hybrid to really just be confident being the front line kind of for himself with all the assists.
Yep, and now 18 seconds until the Mountain Drake is available. This is soul point for both teams now. And APK with the Baron surrounding them, looking to just ignore that position on the map right now, just trying to push down mid and create all the pressure that they can. This inhibitor is exposed, but APK still need to be careful, because if they can protect Root, it is still going to be dangerous. That's a big flanking teleport from Dove. He might actually be able to sneak the Drake, but there is a control ward in that pit, as you can see. Gorilla over to the side, and APK not going to split up. Dove wants to try and pick off stragglers, but it will be harder and harder as this game goes on.
That's just a quick Drake. The soul does go over to... I love that APK did not overcommit to the inhibitor, and they said, all right, we can try to push this, but if it looks like SANDBOX is prepared, let's not risk, getting the inhibitor and then dying and giving over the soul. Let's just make sure we secure that. And now they're in a great... This game has pivoted so much from the early half that we've seen so far.
I actually really like it though, because it shows you the power of compositions if they're used at the right times, right? And SANDBOX actually played theirs out relatively well when they had strength, but APK held on enough to get to that point where their comp is strong as Hybrid. Running real fast yet again. And SANDBOX do need to be really scared of this misfortune that can survive multiple deaths in this teamfight, as Secret will find Dove down to about half health now as he does Chrono Break, but back into danger as the Redemption comes down. Ixu flashes forward, but it's a great Zonya's out from Dove. Takes a lot of killing, but eventually he goes down as the bullet time. He's huge in the backline. A double kill so far for Hybrid, and he's got so much health, so much shielding. Triple kill now. Make that a quadra. And this could be another pentakill in the LCK, as it's a headbutt pole and a penta for the Misfortune. Hybrid fantastically played, and back-to-back MVPs, I think, are on the cards for you, my friend.
100%. I mean, Hybrid, as that team fight started, I'm pretty sure Hybrid had the highest effective health on that team, with all the shields, the Bloodthirster coming in.
Oh man, it was ridiculous.
The GA, and just wasn't dying, and Hybrid really on point for both games today.
That's our 5th pentakill of LCK Spring.
Oh my goodness.
What the heck? Just been, these 80 carries have been popping off. Aiming got one, Mystic got one, and Ruler has got 2 so far this season. So, I don't know what it is. I guess the late game scaling carries in the bottom lane tend to be working out here, and our LCK teams just play around their damage dealers so well. But APK with a surprise 2-0 up against the SANDBOX that were on a winning streak. APK have been losing their games, but they have been difficult ones, to be perfectly honest. Like, this is an APK Prince that had to go up against T1, and then a Damwon that honestly have been struggling, but sometimes the level of weird is just too high, and it's hard to really understand what's going on. But congratulations to APK. They held themselves together and then were able to find the fights that their composition was designed to find. And I love it when games come together like that, and I love it when our underdog teams are able to recognize exactly what they need to do. Really, really clean stuff.
I think this win was more important for them than the first one, just because, like you said, it showed that they are a team that's able to hold their ground and carry through the composition that's supposed to show off its power when needed, and they were able to really rally around the carries they needed. It showed cleanliness, like we kept talking about, despite the early losses they had. And I think this is the game that's going to carry them forward into the future and say, you know what, we can do this, right? We're not just meant to fail, that we're able to keep it up.
Yeah, and we'll see whether APK can try and get out of that relegation zone. Right now, it's playoffs that are feeling a very, very distant task for this team, but they can still make it to 8th place, to 7th place, and escape that relegation possibility that can be very dangerous. We actually saw in the Kesper Cup some of these challenger teams really starting to challenge. I know that that's what they're called, but they're actually doing it. Now, when it seemed like a bit of a joke in promotion tournaments past, right? Often the LCK teams would find it very easy to retain their spot, but that hasn't been the case in recent months. You know, we've had SANDBOX coming in. We've got APK as a perfect example of that as well, relegating Jinair out of the league. I mean, KT managed to stay, but the fact that KT Rolster were in relegations is a testament to our other teams that had recently promoted before that in SANDBOX, Damwon, and Griffin. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the new blood is, but it means that it's very scary for our bottom 2 teams here in the LCK.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of risk, a lot of pressure. So again, kind of just the timing that this team needed in APK Prince, making sure that they have the hope to escape that zone, like you mentioned. Obviously, getting too far up the rankings is a bit far-fetched, but also, like you mentioned earlier, Atlas, they've actually fought some of the stronger teams already. So being able to take down SANDBOX in a bit of a rival standing, this should feel good. Yeah,
absolutely. We're going to check out some of these highlights here. As SANDBOX, it felt like they had all of the early fights, and then something twigged, and Hybrid was activated, and it was no chance for SANDBOX to do anything. Because I honestly felt like the Cosmic Radiance had been enough to stop APK's onslaught, but it just wasn't.
Yeah, I think part of it was APK decidedly, once Hybrid was activated, right? Once he had some of his core items, once the GA came out, once they had the combination, of course we see the unfortunate 0 here. But once they saw that, APK got just aggressive enough that Gorilla wasn't able to preemptively put down his ultimate to negate that combo. And quite frankly, I think Hybrid stopped waiting for the combo, just started using bullet time whenever.
Yeah. Actually, just really liked the play out of APK as the game wore on, and this is something that we don't talk about so much for our lower tier teams, which is the ability to keep your mental intact even though you're losing fights and you're losing the early game stages. But APK showed that they have that mental fortitude, right? And that's something they didn't have in the first round robin, and is something that has been sorely missing from this team. And I'm so happy to report that they have fixed it now, and especially Flawless. Flawless was making good decisions as the game went on, and he is known to tilt. Despite that particular decision, you probably should have stayed in instead of flashing out.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't know that the chrono shift is going to be coming through, and Ixu has been very late on that call, which actually is the sign of a very practiced Zillion, because no one wants to hit the guy with the chrono shift on him. So you have to make sure you hold on to it, much like just here. He puts it onto Hybrid like seconds before he is taken down. He had the GA anyway, but he saves that cooldown, and now is just going to boost Hybrid towards his opposition.
Yeah, Lonely, of course, singing that in a flank immediately gets cut down to 60% of his health. Then the bullet time again coming in before Gorilla can really decide that it's the right time to use his ultimate, and cover just... I can't mention this enough. This was such a good play, because so far, until this fight, cover seemed not bad, but just not great positioning either. Always just kind of battling off Dove, who can be a little bit more flexible and maneuver around that Azir. But that one with the turret plus the ultimate kept two people out. And of course, this is the ending moments where Hybrid with that health bar and the shield just runs amok.
Yeah, look at him. His shield is about half of his health bar, like you were talking about, and they never got through it. And he's so incredibly fast. This was a very comfortable pentakill here, but a well-deserved one for some great play and some great mental fortitude here by APK. I feel like they are turning into the people's team as we check out Hybrid's perspective as they're looking for the pentakill.
They're talking about gave you the buff, and he's already calling for the pentakill. Yeah, he was already calling for the pentakill before he got the triple, and then he gets the triple, and he charges in for the penta. That is insane.
I thought I was yelling and screaming. I was nothing in comparison to that team. Oh my god. I know that they are very boisterous, though, and I think a lot of those calls are being led by Ixu as well. I know he's like supposed to be the older, more mature member of the team. That's not how that goes, actually, as Hybrid did almost double the damage of Root this game. That is just nuts.
Yeah, so well played. And we look at the gold difference over time as well. That's what we were talking about, right? Things started to look way more in favor for SANDBOX for quite some time in that mid-game where they had the
7,000 gold lead. It felt like it was over.
Yeah, and they were doing so well, and then I really think you made the right point that Hybrid just switched on. He got the core items, and then he was able to stop the onslaught of SANDBOX.
Yep, and once that GA came in, it felt like even if Ixu missed his button, he was still going to survive, and then he was going to pop up, and then the chrono shift would come down, and he'd survive again, and just last absolutely forever. But Mountain Soul was also just gigantic, because the effective health that they managed to pick up with not only the shield of the soul itself, but the 4 stacks of Mountain Drake, feels like everyone's a tank at that point. It's just insane, the amount of damage mitigation that they have. So APK being able to shut out SANDBOX from completing their Mountain Soul was just nutty, and now we're going to have Hybrid with back-to-back MVPs, and we did somewhere very, very happy with how this is going. He was on the desk for game number 1, but not on the desk for game number 2. He's in the back of Lowell Park just smiling, saying, yes, that's my boy, because he's a Hybrid fan, man, and Hybrid performed this series.
Oh yeah, Hybrid performed for sure, both in Game 1 and Game 2. I mean, I don't think we can take a single point away from him and what he's been able to do in this whole series. And just his decision-making, I think, in both games really showcased what he's capable of. Again, not shying away. Oftentimes, I think, especially actually surprisingly in Korea, we see a lot of AD carries that just like to play it a little safer, right? And like you said, that's why this aggression is welcome. And Hybrid just seems so aware of what he's capable of, what his range is, both in terms of the physical range that he can deal damage in, but also just the risks he can take.
And Dove took a long time to die here, but Once Hybrid got into position, he didn't care that there was a troll trying to eat him. He just right-clicked people and they died. And he took about 0 health and then just started screaming about a pentakill and was given one.
Oh boy, that's gotta feel good. That's gotta be a feel-good game for Hybrid and of course APK.
9 out of 9 on the EOG points, and you could imagine that that's completely understandable. Hybrid actually just owning this series, to be honest. He had a little bit of time off at the beginning of game number 2, but that's understandable based on composition, and when he needed to be there, he was. So really, really good stuff from the AD carry of APK, and if you're an APK fan, maybe it's time to start lifting your chin up looking at their next matches, because already in round 2, they faced T1. And so that is one of the impossible games that they've got out of the way, right? And so now there are other wins that they can try and pick up.
Yeah, I hope that this series, and especially that game 2, was what they needed, and it looks like we have the interview.
Yeah, so let's throw it to G-Sun for some translation.
진짜 멋졌습니다. 오늘 이 경기 사실 흐름이 그렇게 썩 좋지는 않았는데 본인들 그 APK 선수들은 상황 판단 어떻게 하고 있었나요?
그러니까 저희가 불리하긴 한데 적팀 조합이랑 저희 팀 조합이랑 따졌을 때 갈수록 시간이 갈수록 저희가 더 좋다고
So we were a little bit
어떻게든
behind,
돼지
but
드래곤
we had the
영웅만
really good comp
스택
for
잘
the late
끊자는
game, so we
생각으로 했는데
wanted to
잘
stack up
끊어내서
the Mountain
저희가
Drake
조금씩
stacks.
유리해졌던 것 같아요.
So we were able to kind of have the favor of the game.
본인이 당연히 있었습니다. 뭐 기본
You were the main character of the game.
그리고 첫 번째 경기도 그 정도
You had like over 1,000 DPM in game number 2. And also, you are the damage carry machine in the East. Do you agree with that? I mean, I did do quite a bit of a good job, but my teammates were always trusting me, so I was able to kind of pull off those kinds of plays. And we also want to mention about the pentakill that kind of wrapped up the game number 2. You were like yelling penta penta, jumping forward, flashing forward. When did you have that feeling that you are able to get the penta? When I got the triple kill, I also had flash, and I won that fight without using my flash. So with that Zillion buff, I knew that I was gonna get the penta, so I just asked my teammates for kind of give me the penta in that moment. Well, some other teammates in other teams actually like go for it, steal it, but this time we heard APK players like, give him, or donate for him. Yeah, I don't really remember who that was, but yeah, I definitely heard it. How many pentakills have you done so far? Since the Challengers Korea. I believe this one was my first penta in my career, actually. I mean, that's why probably your teammates have been like asking other players to just give it to Hybrid, right? I mean, we are just so close with each other, so we can like steal it away from the teammates, but at that time we wanted to kind of show a solid teamwork. So APK, I mean, as you said, you guys are all close with each other and so friendly. Your mic check is always so funny. How is the call going? I mean, there are so many vocal players. Well, we don't have a very like clean calls at the same time, but we all kind of know how to communicate throughout the loud voices during the game, so we know how to deal with it. But sometimes we get too excited, so we know how to calm down. So I mean, it's okay, it's going well on our side. Because, I mean, in game number 1, in front of that Baron burst, someone was calling for the Baron, someone was asking for a Sejuani mark, and you dashed over the wall and took down Dove. So how did the communication go at that moment?
그 세주를 마크해달라는 건
So,
저희 정글
Flawless
플로리스 형이
asked the
했는데 그
teammates
정글
to
입장에서
watch
그래도
for
스틸
Sejuani
그 강타 싸움 하기 싫어서
because he
그런
doesn't
얘기했던 것
really
같고 다른
wanted to
팀원들은
have a
버스트
spike
각이
fight.
나와서 버스트 하자는 것
So
같은데
the rest of the players,
제
we saw the
생각에는
burst
아즈르랑
angle.
세주 좀
However,
때려놔야
for
될것
me,
같아서 비전 넘어가는데
I
좀
thought
잘
that we
됐던
have
것
to kind of
같아요.
actually do damage on Sejuani and Azir, so I dashed over the wall.
상대 정글 봐달라고 그러고 다른
봐줘야
팀원들은
됩니다.
버스 하자
예.
그러고 결국 본인이
I
본인
guess
생각대로
like
한거 아니에요 그러면?
every different player has every different point of view, and that worked quite well for APK.
죽였잖아요.
예, 결국 본인 생각대로 한 거 아닌가요?
So you followed your own plan, right?
생각대로
Yeah, I did.
생각대로 하긴 했는데
I did play following my own plan because I only saw a winning scenario coming.
사실 그 두 번째 경기 미드에서 본인이
And in
수호천사
game
있는
number
가운데
2
맞아
with
죽었는데
GA,
질련이
you were just
흘려주면서 만피 그래서 쫙 미는
we were
그
almost
익수와의
dying, but
어떤 그런 그
actually
이듬의
Iksu
그런 어떤
had that
플레이가 있었습니까?
very
기가 막혔거든요.
important
그 장면이 거의
ultimate
뒤집은
coming
거
in
아닙니까?
clutch that
어땠어요?
APK was able to turn the game around.
제가 그때 귀환을 해서 그 수호천사를
After the
사왔던
base,
상황인데
I
상대가
bought GA,
그 스펠도 많이 없고 상태도 많이 안
and a lot
좋았었는데
of opponent
궁극기
players
볼
didn't have
상황이었는데
their summoner
저는
spells and
다행도
ultimates,
있었고
but I had my
GA
GA, also Zillion ultimates, so I knew that the opponents wouldn't be able to kind of take my damage. So I was just making calls, asking for the Zillion ult, and keep just chasing down.
이런 생각이 듭니다. 본능에 따르는 원딜들도 있거든요. 네, 뭐
Well,
그냥
some
각이
of the
보였어요. 뭐 이렇게 얘기하는 경우도
AD carry
있는데
players say
딱딱
answer
이렇게
like,
삐리리
I just saw the angle
그러면서
coming,
견적이
they
바로
just
나오는
follow
거.
their instincts, but I think Hybrid is the kind of player who follows the plan, who maps out everything one step earlier. Once again, congratulations on the win and the pentakill and cutting your losing streak. So, is there any message you would like to say to your fans?
제가
Well,
어제
yesterday
그 경기 때 좀
in the
많이
Daman
못해서
series, I was
팀원들한테도 많이
performing so bad,
미안한 마음이
so I was so
있었는데
sorry for my
그
teammates.
오늘은 좀 잘해서
But
그
today,
미안한 마음 좀 덜어서
I kind of was
다행인 것
able to
같고요.
relieve
앞으로
those
더
kind
좋은
of
경기력으로
sad emotion by
승리 많이
performing
해서
well.
또
So I want to
재밌는
keep
보이스나
up
뭐
this hard
인터뷰
work
그런 거 많이
and
하도록
get more
하겠습니다.
wins and show kind of funny mic checks and also funny moments of our team. So this will be the end of the interview with Hybrid from APK, and I'm gonna pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jisun, for your interview translation as usual. And we are back here. Congratulations to Hybrid. Sounds like a spirited gentleman too, which is very exciting to see. I like just more people that are fun to have on the interview desk. You know, like it allows us to have a little bit more, I guess, personality to the league. So that is always welcome. As Griffin now have lone position in last place.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not looking good for Griffin at all in this season. Seems that there's just going to be so much work needed. But APK able to turn things around and hopefully climb, just a little bit higher into these rankings.
And now they're actually one win behind both Hanwha and SANDBOX. So this is getting really dangerous for the bottom tier teams, because APK were looking like one of our sort of confirmed relegation zone teams, but now it feels like just Griffin down there without much of an ability to win games. So if APK keep challenging, then Hanwha needs to be scared. Then SANDBOX needs to be scared, especially when SANDBOX now have an even head-to-head with this squad, as they look to have possibly turned things around for this team. And once again, I just need to reiterate that it's just so good to see Hybrid, one of these young AD carries, having such a good performance, because it shows that it's not all about the veterans.
Yeah, it's so great to see. So, when I was returning today to join you on this cast, obviously so many names are new to me in terms of direct relevance in the league, but it's great to see them performing so well, because it's been long needed in the LCK.
No, that's exactly right. And now we have the big one, guys, is the tiebreaker between Afrika Freaks and KT. It's going to be a slightly longer break, probably around 30 minutes, but it might mean that we can fit in like 2 Dodongas, maybe? Not entirely sure. I'm going to go and grab some dinner. I think I ordered something. I'm not entirely sure. Hopefully it's arrived. And Choba, you can do the same. We can have all of our energy back for a game, final game this series, and a final game of this week as well. As it's been a long one, so many best of threes. But very excited for this last one. We'll see you after the break.